All right, so I think we're live. Hello, everyone. This is the third session of the Ben Hamud and Stramp live podcast series. So I'm waiting for my colleague Gaber to come online. All right, so we will give him some time, I think. So let me just check if I'm already live or not. So, guys, if you see me live, please let me know in the chat that you can see me live. Yeah, please, if anyone hears us, let us know in the chat that you can see me at least until uh, so I'm just waiting for Gaber. Can anyone hear me, please, guys? Am I live? Do you see me, guys? Do you hear me? Just let me know in the chat if you can see me, guys. Yeah. I think there's a connection problem today. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Taib. Thank you. I just cannot. I'm just waiting for Gaber. I think he will rejoin finally. He will rejoin. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, appreciate this. Okay. So today, okay, wait. Let me just try this. I think Gabor has got problems joining in. So today, in today's session, this is the third session of this podcast series. Okay, so today we will cover the business environment. Okay, we want to explain to you why business environment has jumped from 8% in the let's say the version of 2021, which will end in 1 month and less than a week, in 5 weeks. Okay, and why it has jumped from 8% to 26% in this new ECO. Honestly, I think that's one of the smartest and wisest things that PMI did in the new version. Why? That's because the business environment has been for long neglected, okay, neglected by the project managers. Since project managers, let me give you a little bit of background history, okay. When project management was created, project managers were mostly focusing 90% on processes, maybe 10% on little bit of people, maybe 1% of business environment. I personally, when I got my PMP in 2012, the focus was probably 80, 90%, maybe 80%, okay, on processes, and maybe 20% on, on people. But then with the version of 2021, the domains changed. We used to have different domains like, initiating. We used to have at the PMP exam 5 domains: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, closing. Same like the focus areas, or as previously known in PMBOK 6, process groups. Okay, but now, Gabriel, are you with us?
Yes, finally, finally,
All right.
finally.
So
Okay.
thanks for joining, Gabriel. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, loud and clear. I was able to hear you from the beginning, but for some reason the system was not letting me in. But I'm here
No
now.
worries.
I'm
We are
able to.
live. We're already live for 5 minutes already now. We are live for 5 minutes. I told the audience that actually we're waiting for you. So I will tell you what I was telling them. I was telling them today we're going to focus on business environment. And I want to explain to people the business environment from the ECO and also what they can expect in the other performance domains. So I was telling the audience that when project management started tens of years ago, the focus of the project managers was 90% on the processes, maybe 10% on a little bit of people or business or strategy, whatever. Then with
Yeah.
PMBOK 7, the domains have become three. Processes account for 50% of the exam, people for 42%, and business environment for 8%. Now, it was a surprise for us. I mean, it was a surprise for me. Why business environment accounts for only 8% of the exam, the 2021 version? But then when the new ECO was released late 2020, or not actually so late, after the summer of
Yeah.
2025, in September, I guess, I was
Mhm.
so, let's say, relieved that finally business environment now accounts for 26% of the exam.
Yeah.
Because now, in the current circumstances where we live, where our projects exist, we're so tied. We're so tied, okay, so tightly tied to the environment surrounding us, whether it's technological environment, whether it's political, geopolitical, whether it's economical environment, social environment, environmental, okay, or
Mhm.
ecological environment, etc. So we definitely have to pay attention to, the business environment skills. Okay, so now in the new ECO, guys, that accounts for around 26%. Okay, now I will share my screen, Gaber. So I will just share my screen if you don't mind.
And also, if I can make, let's say, maybe a few comment or my take of that business
Yes,
and
please.
environment is that so PMBOK 5, PMBOK 6, everything was tied into cost management and how we managing costs overall. Now, as an evolution, so as per the the exam of from 2021, now some part of that financials went into the business environment, but not all of it. And I think this time was definitely needed now to make sure that this business environment has this percentage. If you ask me, in 4 or 5 years down the line, when we're going to have a newer version of the exam, that will be even increased slightly more. But that is, I think, going with that principal idea which PMBOK 7 introduced, that we should focus more on the value instead of just managing financials or cost or managing the costs. And that's how I think we end up here. So I'm very happy with this, that the
Yeah.
mechanics of cost management remained still, but now we have a dedicated environment where we talk about just business for project managers.
Exactly. So, guys, since this podcast is, let's say, for an hour, a little longer, maybe we try to keep it for an hour. It's not going to be enough, but at least we're going to explain to you what you can expect in in the exam in relation to the business environment and how some of the questions would look like. Not exactly, not wordly, but at least we get closer. So in the business
Yeah.
environment domain, which accounts for 26% of the exam, there are 8 tasks. Now, these 8 tasks are about defining and establishing project governance. Now, for example, in my PMP training course, project governance is a separate chapter. Okay, so it's a separate chapter where because first of all, it's a performance domain. It's the first performance domain in the performance domains mapping table. So it's a separate
Yeah.
chapter. It's one of the longest chapters. Okay, but you might be wondering, why isn't it here in the processes? Like, why? So this is the people. Why isn't it in the processes, since it is actually explaining what happens in the project from initiating to planning to monitoring to executing to monitoring, controlling to closing? Well, let me explain to you something so important. The way how you read PMBOK and the way how you read ECO is not the same. ECO explains to you the domains of the exam. These tasks in each domain of the exam, then later on, they are organized in a different way, content-wise, in the PMBOK. And our course material, generally, most of the experts in the world, our course material, it mostly follows the structure, let's say, the best structure to help the students learn project management in the easiest way. Some experts make their course follow the structure of the guide. Other structures would probably follow the structure of the, for example, of the standard, which is based on the focus areas. What happens in initiating, what happens in closing. Others would probably focus, a different approach. It's a mix between both those two, which is what happens, in a project. So they take the project and they tell the story of the project from beginning to end. I personally chose the third approach. How about you, Gaber? What kind of approach do you follow for your PMP course? The new one, if you want.
So for the new one, I think I try to separate the must-have, which is understanding a cost baseline and every mechanics around it, because for everybody's understanding, SPI, CPI we're not going to get rid of those, and some of the formulas will be still part of the common understanding of a project manager. But after that is we're going to look into that. I try to connect this with the mindset, whereas governance, compliance, and also changes and planning of it, and the PM to be more involved, even from a business case up until the end, to make sure that the PM is responsible for the margins delivery, whereas previously was not really explicitly, in that case. But as real life, you are absolutely responsible for the margin as well. So I think I really link this what I see on the ECO. Some of it I link it with the mindset, and I think that's how I put it.
Yeah, exactly. So task one in the business environment, guys, is about the governance. So this is governance. We will have it in a separate podcast. So we will come to that to talk about it. What's governance? Generally, what's governance in the project? Okay. What kind of rules to follow? What are the escalation paths? How to define success metrics? Or performance indicators, reporting channels, etc. All right. Task two is about managing project compliance. Now, this is definitely part of the business environment. So even in the full course, we teach it as part of the chapter one, which is called business environment, whether it's compliance with regulations, with security guidelines, health and safety, sustainability, etc. Then managing changes, how to manage and control changes. Personally, in my course, managing changes is part of the performance domain called governance. Okay. And we also come back to talk about it a little bit then later on in scope, in schedule, since they're often, exposed to changes. Removing impediments and managing issues. Now, yes, it is true that it is in business environment. Okay. But for example, in a full course, you can easily find this covered in either a little bit in the agile chapter, okay, since we talk a lot about impediments in agile, okay, or also we can cover it in, for example, in a chapter like risk management a little bit, or in the execution, in the monitoring and controlling focus area of the project, okay. Planning and managing risk. Now, here in the ECO, you find it as part of the business environment. And the full course, managing risks or risk management, is a separate chapter, I think, with most of the trainers, okay? But still, risk can touch any aspect of the project, not only business environment. Risk can be related to people, to environment, to processes, to stakeholders, etc. Okay. By the way, Gabriel, as usual, jump in whenever you want. This is not my podcast.
But I like your summary in that sense, Ahmed. The way how I like to make little secret sauce into this is that, so whenever if I look into task 5 of planning and managing risks, I always try to paint the picture of this is how we do it in waterfall and this is how we do it in Agile Scrum, to make sure people will understand it. Because many cases, the way how PMI makes your challenge, or we're challenging this to you, is that how the identification of risk will happen in Scrum, how the risk identification will happen on waterfall, with they wrapped up with a very nice, very shiny or difficult situational scenario, or nowadays we call it the case study scenario altogether. So I think this is still the bread and butter for any project, to make sure you're managing the risk, but is technically put into the right place, because risk will be always a future event, either happens or not happens. If it's very impactful, I'm trying to make sure it's not happens. And I think that why is very much core related to the business environment, and now it's put it into the right place. So I really can echo what you are saying there. even though, I mean, everything we learn about, qualitative, quantitative risk analysis, expected monetary value calculation will still not disappear. So just for everybody's understanding, that's still, something you need to
Yes.
understand. That make sure
Yeah.
you know that.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you guys. Now, something that is not new, but now it has become a separate task, which is continuous improvement. We've talked about continuous improvement already since the previous versions. They're part of the agile mindset. They're part of the bigger lean approach related to operations and related to projects. But now continuous improvements is not only manifested, through lessons learned or retrospective meeting. Okay, so actually there are also, or there will be, I think, also a few situations or a few questions in the PMP exam about continuous improvement, whether it's related to a product, to a life cycle, etc. But now it's become a separate task. It wasn't in the previous ECO, I think. Supporting organizational change. This also, this existed in the previous ECO, now in the new one, especially in case there is transformation from one approach to another, evaluating the culture of the organization, readiness for a change, etc. And finally, yes.
One question. So how you define this support organizational change, or supporting that, is you think that's more like a process, or that's more like a mindset? What do you think?
It's, first of all, it's a mindset. Good point, Gabor. Very good point. It's a mindset. So PMI expects you as a project manager to be able or to be ready to support the organization in its transition from one approach to another. And let me give you the two layers of transition. Now, if the company, for example, has been working for a long time with predictive approaches, and now it wants to move to more of a hybrid approach or a maybe adaptive approach. So the project manager is expected to know how hybrid functions, how agile functions, and what would be the ideal or the best hybrid model for that particular project, and the same for adaptive. So you need to be able to support the organization and not run away from that responsibility and say, no, let's bring in an agile coach, for example. No, you're supposed to know. That's one thing. Of course, during this transition phase, you have to be able to, assess company's culture, company's readiness for a change, expect pushbacks, skepticism. You need to know how to deal with such stakeholders, how to, highlight the value of that transition or transformation, etc. But there is also another type of transition, and there are not so many questions about it yet, but there might be more in the future, which is for example, if a functional organization or a weak matrix organization would like to become a stronger matrix or a project-oriented organization. Now here, you need to be able or you need to be ready to support that transformation, that transition from one org type to another org type. It wasn't such questions were not many in the 2021 version, but I expect to be a few of them in the 2026 version. And these at least two major types of support you can provide in organizational change. And there is a third one that I'm expecting that it might be available as well. And that we will cover in the next podcast session 4. That's related to the system for value delivery. Okay, so in case your organization doesn't know how to get organized in terms of portfolios, programs, projects, PMO, etc. I mean, you're a project manager in a PMP exam, but at least you have basic knowledge on PMO, portfolio, program. So you should be able to recommend to your organization how to get organized, in program if you have multiple interrelated projects, or also how to set up portfolios, even though you will not be managing a portfolio or a program, but at least that's a transactional transformation that you might be supporting. So these are the three types, Gaber.
I think that will be also very tricky, because if you're getting down into this value discussion, and for example, how we define the success, if the question, which the candidates will do, does not define any criteria, you have to fall back the only criteria you have, which is how close we are to the baselines, inevitably. And I think that's where the challenges will be for some of the questions, because if the KPI is not defined or the value is not defined, then the only reference point you have is going to be your baseline, isn't it?
Baseline is
It can
related to
depend.
plans. Transformation, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, at the end, any change could impact your baseline. So
Yes.
somehow it will fall back to that at certain point. But here, supporting organizational change, I think it could even mean before even starting the project. I would
Okay,
take
I
it
see
that
your
way,
point.
probably. Yeah.
No, I see your
Now, the
point.
last
No, that's a
task
good
here,
one.
guys, is about how to evaluate the impact of any change coming from the external environment. Okay, the external business environment. Okay, business environment. So also that you need to be be pay attention to your pestle environment, for example, the political, environmental, ecological, economical, social, technological, and legal, for example. Okay, and continuously review that impact on your plans or your scope, etc. So for the business environment, there is one sentence I write in my PAP training in the last chapter, chapter number 12, which is a summary chapter. Always think like a businessman and act as a project manager. Because when you think as a
Hmm.
businessman, you always look for, you look after the business, how to make it
Yeah.
sustainable, the business, how to make it profitable, how to understand the circumstances and the conditions surrounding you. So that businessman's mindset, you need to have it as a project manager, but then you will always answer as a project manager because the PMP is for project managers, Gaber.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
So
I can agree on that.
we have prepared for you guys a few slides. To be honest, I personally have taken these basic slides from the business environment chapter. It's a long chapter, but I've taken just a few slides to cover some parts of the business environment quickly before we jump to show you few examples of questions. All right. So now we have many times mentioned that projects and business are not the same. Projects are temporary. Business as usual, they run for a long time. Okay. PMI has kept this slide. This is taken from the PMBOK. It has been there
Mhm.
in the PMBOK since many versions. PMBOK 8, PMBOK 8, PMBOK 6, PMBOK 5, I think PMBOK 4, etc. Because PMI wants you to understand that whenever we undertake a project, the project is supposed to take us to a better future state that will increase the business value we're receiving or we're getting. Okay, so this is an important definition of a project. Okay, please, Gaber, feel free whenever you want to stop me. Okay, just jump in as usual. Also important for you to understand, guys, that defining the project success criteria can put you on the right tracks from the beginning. So, for example, in the business, in relation to the business environment, when you know the business expectation, the expected business value, all right, when you understand the constraints and the assumptions coming from your environment, all of that will help you as part of your governance, as part of your project governance, as you can see down here, to be able to understand and define your project success criteria. So having defined project success criteria or acceptance criteria will help you know how you and your team will manage the project successfully and properly. And you need to make sure that that's part of your governance. So in the governance, we don't only put escalation paths, change management process. No, we also need to put success criteria. How would we know that this project is successful? So a successful project definitely has got few criteria, such as it was completed within the constraints, it achieved the business value or the expected value, it definitely contributed or it is linked to the organization's strategy, and we have a satisfied sponsor or maybe satisfied customer. These are some of the main success criteria. Now there is a new one. I might add it, okay, which is, well, it's optional until now, facultative, but it might be mandatory soon, which is did it, did it, is it sustainable? Like, is it going to sustain the environment? Is it going to sustain, the social surroundings, etc.? So that might be soon one of the key success criteria of projects. That's one. And another one, I think many companies will start using as well, since the PMP training is based on a practical side of the world, not just theoretical side, as many people think. I think also we can add in the future another success criteria, which is has the project been optimized? Did it make some savings, or did it improve? Does it provide any continuous improvement actions, or did it include any AI in it, etc.? So that maybe in the future could be some of the success criteria. It might exist already now in some projects, but at least we have covered here the basic ones, Gaber.
Yeah, I think so. The only thing to add into this is that project success criteria are going to be essentials because we are going into this value focus versus managing baselines, managing the plan, and just delivering as per the plan. And I think the key message for all the candidates on the call that from now on, or from July 9 onwards, technically you need to have a good understanding of what the project success means in terms of the value delivery, not just for waterfall, but also for agile. And I think this is also still, I would say, in some extent in a gray area, because the value on a waterfall project is produced is different than how it's produced on agile, simply because the agile is always going to be a software development where values can be realized early. And the way how I like to add it into the explanation to make sure everyone understand very quickly. So, for example, if I build a house, up until the house is not 100%, I cannot live in there. And even though I reaching milestones, are reaching certain key stages within the project, or values are delivered, but up until it's not 100%, all the value cannot be realized. And not because you are not a flexible, you're an old rigid thinking fellow here, maybe like myself, but simply that's the way it is. And I think, with all this, the way everybody should understand is that, success criteria builds upon the value, based on certain criteria, which the project defines in the organization level or on a project level. But the way how we're going to deliver that and realize that will be also, let's say, the it depends answer. And I think that's where we're still going to see lots of, people who might be pissed off some of the questions they're going to do for the exam. But I think that's why this is, in the extent is clear, but the way how they're going to ask it, there will be things which will go into the gray area, if you're asking me.
There is, thanks, Gabriel. There is a framework that you probably guys heard of, which is the MORE framework, okay? Now, this is PMI's new perception of things, how PMI perceives the projects, the different initiatives, different programs undertaken at a company. So PMI works on, expanding enlarging the understanding of project management by introducing the MORE framework. And by the way, PMI offers a free e-learning on it to the free users, and those with membership, they can have another e-learning for free as well because they're members. So MORE stands for M stands for managing perceptions. So a project is successful when the key stakeholders believe that the outputs of the project will deliver enough value compared to the consumed resources. Okay, so that perception you need to manage. By the way, these managed perceptions is going to be directly reflected in many questions of the PMP exam. Okay, so in many PMP exams, you have to make sure that you explain to the stakeholders or convince the stakeholders that whatever resources we're asking for or we're consuming, they're going to produce equivalent value, and then you have to prove that whatever value is produced, it is justified. That's one. The O stands for owning the success. Now, this also relates to the accountability pillar, okay, and the mindset. So the project professionals, generally, whether it's the project manager or the project management team, they have to own the project fully, okay? And they don't just stick to the process, get requirements, build the scope, then put a plan in place, execute, and that's it. No. They have to deliver clear value to stakeholders while minimizing waste. You see, this is what I mentioned earlier. This is a new part of PMI's mindset. Even minimizing waste could be a key component. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, exactly. It can be part of your success criteria, minimizing that waste.
Exactly. It could be part of success criteria. I could expand this to with 3 other bullets, if and I might do it actually. And a lot of you guys can find it later on in the project companion starting July 9th. Okay, once we have the official release of the project companion, which will be your companion in your PMP and project management journey. So see how important minimizing waste is. And this is taken directly from the MORE framework from PMI's website. Okay, just to let you know. Now, the R stands for relentlessly reassess project parameters. Why? Because you need to adapt. All right. You will not just have one fixed plan, but you need to recognize the reality of inevitable and ongoing changes. You need to adapt. You have to continuously reassess the perception of value and adjust the plans, and you have to involve the stakeholders. We were involving the stakeholders enough in the version 7 and version 6, but now even more, because we have realized that in practice, still many projects have failed because stakeholders were not involved enough. So guys, get ready to having 5 tough questions in the PMP exam about stakeholder engagement, stakeholder involvement, but really on a really tough or deeper sense of involvement. So be ready for that. Make sure that you really know who your stakeholders are, what are their needs, their positions, their realities, their power interest levels, what they really want. You need to make sure that you really capture their needs, because in the PMP exam, there will be questions testing you, putting you in a situation and asking you, what did the stakeholder ask for? We never had such questions before, but now we will have them in the new PMP version. What did this stakeholder ask for? And it will give you 4 propositions, and you need to really make sure that you have really understood what this stakeholder really wanted. Okay, so be ready for those new types of questions, guys. Okay, we will help you by sharing some questions with you for free, of course, on different channels. But be ready really for really deep diving into project management, Gaber. And
I think
so
that's so.
Yes, go on, please, go on.
I mean, the only thing I wanted to add on that is that you are absolutely right. So the exam is changing like 20% comparing what it is today, but where they're going to make everybody's life difficult is the way how they're going to ask certain topics and certain questions. And especially when you say that if you have to focusing on exactly what the stakeholders are asking for, I mean, you can have the idea that if a stakeholder has a concern, so the stakeholder believes that we are not on track or we have a risk which you may not identified, for example. And those examples will be really helpful for the students to understand that what is the exam is all about. And then we're moving into a little bit of an area where can you implement this real life? And the answer will be yes. There's going to be more compatibility towards real life and how you can make an impact as a project manager, not just on a PMP level, but also I would say real life level, because that's the real life that sometimes you receive an email from a stakeholder who might be slightly angry with the progress, but you don't know why, but you need to figure out why. And in real life, that's exactly what you do. You talk to another stakeholder, to another stakeholder, to another stakeholder before you go to that guy to make sure that you have all the, the ammunition to make sure that if somebody shooting at you, you know exactly what to do. So yeah, I'm happy to see that. But that means that we need to be more prepared. And again, I think the implementation of the theory will be key, for understanding and passing the exam, because, the passing rate overall PMP is still very low. So I think you need all you guys need experts like Ahmed, who actually been, having great programs together to make sure people are passing the exam. So yeah, just to add on that.
Let me give you my feedback on 2 points. You said that the current exam version is 20% different to the new exam version 20% different. No, actually it's more. It's more than 30%. When I have dug into the 2 versions, because some people asked me, I mean my current students, and even some of them, people who are not my students, hey Ahmed, I have purchased the course based on PMBOK 6 and 7, okay, or we can say the process groups, how called the standard or not the guide, the process groups guide, and the PMBOK 7. Can I still take the exam in the new version with the current with that course? I say, well, you can try, but they're 30% different at least. I mean, I have really analyzed so deeply, they're 30% different. So that's something, guys, you need to pay attention to. Why? Because the new exam now, it tests you on system for value delivery. Before, it was not that deep. Now it goes to higher levels. There are a few questions, as I have mentioned before, on portfolio, on programs, on PMO, deeper than before. Okay, on the entire system. Before, it was not so deep. Now it is. It tests you also on sustainability. It tests you on a stronger definition of values, stronger development and tracking of value, stakeholders we already mentioned, few other things. So yeah, it's and plus the questions, some of them are similar, are going to be similar to the 2021 version, but there are many new types of questions. We talked about them, but also the way the questions are framed, the way they're asked. That's one thing. The other thing, to be honest, I don't know about the PMP success rate. Now, let me be as honest as possible. For example, Gabor, May, we just finished May, the month of May. I think I think the pass rate in my company was around 98%. I think my colleague Marwa is watching us. Marwa, please, if you're watching, let us know how much was the pass rate in our company from all our students who took the exam, how many of them passed. So please put, if you're hearing us, put that. I think it was 98%. The exam, I mean, I don't know if the exam is easy or is it the material we provide, but really, I think because personally, I focus on teaching people how to manage projects. I don't teach people primarily how to pass the exam, how to manage projects according to their mind's view and mindset. Probably that's what makes the exam easy, maybe. Okay. So if we finish with the more framework, the E stands for expanding perspective. All right. So so we know that the projects, they affect more than just the defined scope. Okay. So the PMI expects you to look at the project in the broader business context, the broader organizational context, whether it's objectives, whether it's strategy, okay, and the wider impact on the projects on that environment. Okay. So why? Because that puts you slowly, or that makes you gain more strategy or strategic skills. I mean, no, I wouldn't say strategic skills, more skills on strategy rather than being limited just to project management as a project manager, because there seems to be a vision from PMI where it wants to take project managers too. Okay. Yeah. Whenever you want to add something, Gabor, please. Now.
No, we can proceed.
Yeah. Now, something so important, guys. Believe me, you can expect tens and tens of questions in the exam related to value. I mean, you don't necessarily need to see the word value. You might have many questions about value without seeing the word value, because PMI doesn't have to use the word value. They can change it with what value means, actually. For example, reducing waste by 30%. Well, that's a value without saying the word value. Okay, increasing customer satisfaction by 20%. Increasing our market share from 5% to 10%, etc. Many different types of value. So you know there is a big focus on value. And let me tell you, really, the word value is one of the best words I have learned in the past 10 years. Seriously. Now, even in my mindset, and I wish that everyone who's watching and listening, you could get that also in your mindset. Everything I do, I try to make sure there is value behind it. Let me give you an example out of project management. Today is Tuesday. So before this live, I locked myself in a room for 2 hours, and I was answering my backlog of messages on LinkedIn. Some of the questions were related to project management, but many questions not related to project management. And you know, every time I answer someone, I make sure that that person will get value out of my answer. Now, even if it's not something related to my field of expertise, I must try to either, advise the person what to do, or share a contact of someone that can help them, or at least a website or anything. But replying to a person without a value, I almost never do that. And that's the same happens in project management. So it's not about creating a perfect, big, large plan on a project. You don't. Now, in modern project management, you don't need to have that. It's not, you don't look as a great project manager by having 1,000-line Gantt chart for example. No, focus on what really creates value. If there are any tasks that are not bringing any value, are repetitive, are a waste, remove them. You know, I mean, even if you end up at the end having just a 200 line Gantt chart instead of 1,000 in a similar previous project, is fine. Why? It's not because you removed a lot of technical dependencies or a lot of details which were necessary. No, you're focusing on what gives value. That's one of the examples how you're streamlining, how you're improving the way you're doing project management, okay, in planning. Now, I'm not going to mention other aspects of project management because it's too large, too big, Gaber.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. And maybe just to add, so what does this mean? Is that so instead of you have this narrow view what the project is doing, PMI technically now make sure that you understand that you have to widen the perspective of an end-to-end impact of how your project fit into a portfolio, and not just by you knowing that you have a program manager to report to or a portfolio manager, but technically how your value fit into the overall big picture. And I think that is now it's great to see that the best practice follows that kind of practice, which is in most companies where you have a company where you have a very mature project management organization or a PMO office. This is something which was always expected there, that people have to understand the big picture, how they project fit into the big picture. And that is just simply helping the PMs also with leadership skills, selling the idea to the team members to make sure they also buy into the project. So I'm fully with you. And then the biggest caveat is that on the questions, how this will come back on the questions, how the value is being proposed, what we see as a value. Yeah. Okay.
No, continue, please. Sorry. Continue, please, Jacob.
I lost my thought, but that's fine. It will come back.
Okay. So how that value is going to be reflected in questions, you said. I already gave a couple of examples earlier, and I think, guys, if you follow us, we're going to share with you questions, not only in this podcast, but also in the future. We're going to help you, same as we helped you before. We're going to help you maybe see different types of questions, how it addresses value. So we try to go as deep as possible. All right. Also, as part of the business environment, it focuses on the social responsibility, also societal or societal responsibility, as well as the environmental sustainability. Okay. Now, this is an important topic. If you go to our companion and if you ever get free access, starting July 9, you will see a few examples of questions, tens of questions actually on business environment, where you can see also very important questions on social responsibility, environmental sustainability, etc. Because now PMI will put you in few scenarios of projects that either don't respect environmental conditions or regulations, or projects that think only short term, don't think long term. Those are important aspects to keep in mind, because now this has become one of the values of PMI in project management, and I really appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, another new term in the PMBOK 8, which was used for the first time, which is disbenefits. We talked a lot about benefits, but also now it talks about disbenefits. So these are, and then these benefits. So benefits, we know it. These are positive results we expect from the project or being delivered from the project. They could be financial, non-financial, to support the organizational objectives or the customer's requirements. But these benefits, these are unintended adverse effects or costs that negatively impact the stakeholders or the project itself, and could reduce the overall value. Okay, so this is something new, and there are a few questions. I think around 3 to 4 questions in the PMP exam that mentions examples of these benefits. Not necessarily would mention this benefit as a word, but examples. Like, for example, we undertake a project to, for example, create an internal e-learning platform. Okay. But that would harm the library which we launched last year, because now people will study online, and that library on which we have spent hundreds of thousands now might not be in use anymore, because people would go for digital, not for physical books, for example. Okay, so that's an example of this benefit. So we have to evaluate, the project before taking it, and that goes back to the pre-project phase, which is the business case, Gaber. If you're with me,
yeah, and I think
yeah,
the term might sound a little bit, let's say, weird, these benefits, and then what does the project manager should do with that? And I think this is just simply in line that you're trying to eliminate the waste, you continuously improve, you're focusing on the value, and you just trying to ensure that there are no previously we said, let's say, scope creep or other activities which you might been asked to do but has nothing to do with the value delivery. Now PMI is acknowledging that now you need to take some action, and you need to recognize it and technically act on it to make sure that none of those benefits or these benefits are really coming into play. But again, a slightly confusing term, I would say, by the first look, but that will requires, I would say, more explanation. But definitely something which most people will learn through examples, and the example will be with some of the questions when you're going to be able to see them. So
exactly.
this will be very practical.
Yes, exactly. So benefits or value could be tangible or intangible, and these are examples of tangible value and intangible, like tangible like monetary assets, market share, utility, etc. Intangible like brand recognition, acquired knowledge, reputation, etc. Okay.
I think one is very if you go back to one slide, you see compliance. That is an intangible benefit. I mean, on my view, compliance is something to do with requirements or mandatory in most cases for most projects, most organizations. Now, why is it seen as an intangible benefit? I'm not fully sure, but that's something which is a license to operate, isn't it? That's being compliant with certain, isn't it?
See, sometimes when we comply with the law, with the regulation, sometimes it's not directly tangible, like it's not directly calculated. So that's why PMI has put it in the intangible benefits, okay, or business value. Also in the business environment chapter, we look at the different organizational structures. We mentioned a few of them earlier, like the functional organization, where the project manager doesn't have a lot of authority, neither a lot of power. The matrix organizations, the weak one, which is similar to functional, the balanced one, and the strong one, and then the project-oriented organization, which is maybe closer to. This is the ideal one for the project managers, so they can enjoy full power. They have full dedicated team to the project. They manage the budget, etc. So yes, there are a few questions in the exam about not directly about the organizational structure, but about situations which you need to manage. Sometimes you need to coordinate with the functional manager in case you're in a functional organization or a weak matrix organization. And let me tell you, don't really expect that you will see the same types of questions, that are already online related to the 2021 version. There are new ways of asking the questions. Some of them are deeper, some of them are different. So get used to that. Okay. Gabriel, are you with us? Because I cannot see you.
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here.
Right. Okay. So the project influences, of course, this is part of your business environment as a project manager. So you have the enterprise environmental factors, the external ones mainly. Some of them are internal. The organizational process assets. These are the processes, the policies, the procedures, or even the knowledge bases and knowledge repositories which you can use or you are tied to using, etc. Okay. So your environmental factors and your organizational assets, you need to understand, and there will be a few questions about them. These are examples of internal and external EFs, like organizational culture, structure, etc. These are internal environmental factors. External ones like government policy and regulations, market conditions, industry standards, etc. So all of those could impact the project. Okay.
I'm so happy to see this one again. Be honestly, I'm very happy to see EFs again, OPAs again, because technically we never get rid of those, even though we call them differently, but they are still this influential circle of, how the projects will be, successful or not successful. So I'm so happy to see this one back again. Be honest with you.
Yeah, actually, we cannot get rid of them because See, the only time when we will stop talking about them, that's when we will manage projects from the moon. Until that happens, yeah, really, I'm serious. Until that happens,
Okay.
and as long as we're still on Earth, we will always have EAFs and OPAs because
Yeah.
projects will be always, related to organizations, and projects will be always part of environments. Okay,
Yeah.
so funny enough, organizational processes like HR policies, how they impact the project, the templates, the approaches, the frameworks, the tools, the lessons learned from previous projects. This is such an important one. Okay, even risk databases now, all of those are part of the organizational process sets that you need to pay attention to them or use them while managing your project. Now, one of the
Mhm.
last slides is about complying with regulations. And there is a difference between the regulation and the standard. Now, regulation, complying with regulations, that's mandatory because that's law, that's de jure. Okay, you have to comply. So, compliance with regulations is always prioritized. And you will have in your new PMP exam always those questions that, whether in an adaptive project or a predictive one, you're in the middle of the execution and then suddenly a new regulation comes out. So what would you do, towards that regulation? Okay, so there you have to answer, depending on which approach you're using and what kind of flexibility do you have. But definitely you need, whenever there's a new regulation, you need to understand its impact, assess it, discuss it with the relevant stakeholders, and then figure out what to do with it depending on the processes you have established. As for the
Mhm.
standards, these are generally best practices, okay, like the ISO standards, for example. So
Mm.
complying with them usually is voluntary unless indicated otherwise, okay? So you have to
But
really
that's an
understand.
interesting point. That's an interesting point because some people or organizations might say that regardless standards should be not voluntary but mandatory. But the more you're looking at it, they are really just voluntary. It does not affect the business or the project in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Now, one of the last slides for this, it's not the last thing, last but not least, because we still have a few questions to see, is the business case. Now, since we're talking about the business environment, we have to understand that any project is preceded by a business case, study phase, okay? Where, we need to justify the need and value of doing the project. We call that the business case
Mhm.
generally. So, what kind of problem are we having or opportunity are we seeing? What are our alternatives, expected costs, benefits? And here we can even create a benefits management plan, recommended approach, and then decision go, no go. Of course, in the full training, we go deep in this. The business case is an entire section where we really go deep, in it, up to the decision matrix, which is one of the best things I really studied in my life and I really teach in my life is the decision matrix in a business case. Okay. Now, once the business case is approved, then we can have the authorized project to deliver the intended benefits, and then the project will be managed by the project management team according to the scope. According to the constraints and assumptions, and the results should be deliverables and value. All right. And this is the content of the business case explained. Of course, in the PMP exam, you can expect one or two questions about business case, not business justification exactly, but business case generally, which is, the let's say the justification of the existence of the project. All right.
And I think, yeah, and I think the only thing to add is that so everybody's understanding. So it's still within PMI universe, there is no project without business case. If your project does not have a business case, that's not going to be a project, and that's still the case, which we continue from the current version of the exam. And I think the clarity which needs to be also provided or understood is going to be how the agile business case is different than this business case. But that might be something which we're going to discuss next time. But you always remember that whatever we have for waterfall, you have to understanding that are we doing the same or something similar on agile? Is there any synergy in between them? Because from now on, from July 9th, 60% of the questions will be agile, hybrid, and Scrum, which means that you really have to have a good understanding of separating and differentiating between the two of them. Yeah.
By the way, in the PMI's lexicon or way of doing things, until this moment, business case is almost the same. Almost, I say almost, for waterfall and agile, because agile and waterfall is related to the approach used in the life cycle of the project, but business case is pre-project, so it's regardless of the type of the project management that will be used on that project, because a business case has to be, let's say, successful. However, there is tendency towards having a full business case or a lean business case. Okay, somehow, I mean, if I call it lean business case, but so far this is not yet decided in the PMP exam. So that's why we are teaching business case as is. Whether you're gonna later on have an approved waterfall project or an approved agile project. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, so my interpretation of the business case on agile, so on waterfall, this needs to be documented, fully blown, someone approving it, stickers reviewing it. Now, I think, is it really in line how agile is explaining the values and principles that you have to have this one documented? And that's what I would say, that maybe not exactly like that, or is it really necessary? We will see, but that's when you get this independence.
I have good news for you, Gabriel. The documentation part, the strict minimum documentation part in Agile has been a little bit lifted up or lifted in the new PMP exam. So even in an Agile project, PMI authorizes the project manager, or the project leader, to include minimum documentation, let's say more than before, a little bit more than before, because before the way we taught Agile is strictly similar to the standard Scrum, which was released 15 years ago or more. But now, you could use risk register in an Agile project. You could have a stakeholder register. Well, yeah, you could. Before it was not. Now you could. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But not the project management plan, not other heavy documents, but minimum documents that provide value to the project manager. Because I personally, as a project manager, I cannot have an agile project without risk register or without stakeholder register, to be honest. They are a must-have for me. Okay?
You are right.
All right. Yeah. Always value proposition. You have always to know how to propose value to the customer, even while studying the profile of the customer. When conducting a business case or a study phase, you have to know the customer's gains and pains, and how to create more gains for them, or how to relieve them of the pains. Okay, so that also goes in the mindset of PMI, how to understand your customer's expectations and the requirements. And we talked about the PESTEL analysis. I mentioned it earlier. Just one new thing in the PMP exam. I think there will be 2 questions for every candidate. I'm not so sure. I'm always speculating, okay? Let me be honest. I'm always speculating based on what I hear, I know somehow here, okay? I think for most candidates, there will be 1 or 2 questions about the geopolitical tension, or a project that is international in different areas, and then in one area there is a geopolitical tension or situation that could impact the project. Okay, like for example, war, or maybe 2 countries not agreeing and they're stopping trades, and then it could impact your project, etc. So it's really good. That's broadening the perception of the project manager, not only to look at the inside of the house, like the company from inside, but also looking further, in the environment of the company, whether it's the nearby environment, like your industry, in your country, or even the international environment, because PMI knows that a lot of projects, a decent percentage of projects, are on international level, and many of those projects are impacted by the geopolitical situation. Okay, so there will be a couple of questions, I think, in the exam touching on that. And then finally, the last thing in these few slides I chose around 20 slides from the business environment chapter, which is, I think, it accounts for around 100 slides, which is measuring performance in the business environment, whether using the benefit cost ratio, formula or return on investment or net present value or other formulas. And yes, there is one question on measuring business performance, at least one. I'm not talking about earned value, that's another thing, but I'm talking about business performance formulas. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think most of these tips and tricks, I have already, Gabriel and I have already shared them with you guys. So I just have them written here. And then we can even show you some sample questions. All right. But before that, maybe I say maybe, let me take you here to the just to show you guys to the project company in which we are building, and I think it will be ready on 9th of July for you guys. So, and I think everyone in the world will be entitled to use it for free, even to have full access to the course for free for a limited time. Okay, I think, because I discussed it with my team and I have asked for it, specifically our developers, and I'm sure they will really do it. I told them, let's give a chance to everyone in the world. By the way, the shape of this company will change. Even what you see here will change. Once we release it officially on 9th of July, there is a lot of work developed in the background. You don't see it. It's not on the site yet, but it will be. So for example, in the full course, if we go to, by the way, you have here the wrap up for our summary of the entire training, but based on version 7. Version 8 is not available yet, but we will make it available for you guys before July 9. But for example, if you go to the business environment here, and here we have the different videos of this chapter. I think it's a 3-hour chapter. It's got 45 quiz questions. So if I go to the quizzes, and here you have a 5-question quiz, a 15-question quiz, 25-question quiz. So if I just go to the 5-question quiz, here you have different questions. I just probably, no, you know what? Let me go back. I'm closing this. Let me go. Okay, I scored 0. Thank you. So let me just go back. Go back to the quizzes. It's really easy to use platform. I go to the 15-question quiz. Okay, I'm going just to answer whatever. So I want to quickly, I want to show you some types of new questions. You see that, guys? These are from the ECO. So like you can drag and drop. You see, I'm dragging this maximum capital outlay. I'm dragging it and dropping it in the right here, for example. Payback achieved. I'm dragging it and dropping it, for example, here. Before recovery, dragging and dropping it in here. Okay, net positive return, I'm putting it in here. I don't know if this is right or not. So all labels have been placed. So this is an example of a drag and drop. I go next. Okay, so this is one of those new types of questions. So I have to pick 2 answers. I'm picking this one, I'm picking this one. I don't know if this is correct or not. Okay, these here, what you see are new types of questions. And this is in the quiz of 15 questions. So you have all the 8 types of questions in our 3 types of quizzes, and each type has got unique questions. So we have built for you really, really nice solutions. This is another question, for example, here. Okay, click on all the bars representing scenarios where the investment is profitable. I think this one, and I think this one, and I think this one, for example. I'm not convinced with this one, so I'm not selecting it. Probably this one, for example. So these are the new types of questions you might see in the PMP exam. So we have already created them for you in our companion. All right. And we have done this. Let me go next to another question. Here's another new type of question. Okay. Another one, which is drag and drop. So I'm dragging from here, I'm dropping here. You see? I'm dragging from here, I'm dropping here. I'm dragging from here, I'm dropping here. I'm dragging from here, and I'm dropping here, for example. You see, it's nicely created, nicely matched, okay? Because we really want to create something really nice for you guys, all right? So these are the new types of questions. Then back to the normal ones, okay? So I'm just answering. I don't even know what I'm reading. Oh, select 3. I have to select 3 answers. So 1, 2, 3. It's not letting me go next. So I have to set 3 answers. Next, for example, I'm choosing this one. Probably I'm going to score 0 here, Gabriel. I'm not reading the questions. Are you with me, Gabriel? So I go
Yeah,
next.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm just a little bit shocked on that drag and drop because that looked amazing
Yeah, yeah,
in
thank
the
you.
end. Um,
I go.
but
Just a second, I'm almost done. Submit exam. Yeah. You see, I didn't read any question. I scored 33%. Then I can download PDF of my answers. You see, I can download the PDF. Yep, I can see then here my list of my questions, the right answers, the wrong answers, the explanation, etc. So I can have that for every quiz I'm taking. Then I can retake the quiz. I can retake the quiz if I want to. I can see also here down here what are my wrong answers, my right answers down here. Okay, so it's really nice app. We haven't shown you even 5% of it. Once it's done fully, because it's going to be an amazing companion. It's called Project Companion. It will accompany you, or it will accompany you in your PMP training journey, but not only that, even in your PMO journey, in your GMP journey, in your CAPM journey, in your, and then also it will also follow with you. You see here you have your history of quizzes as well. You can check all of the quizzes taken, your history, how you scored. It's really nicely done by my team, but still it's work in progress. So once this is complete, you're gonna guys be amazed by the AI in it, the automation in it. All what you need to do is write one sentence. Once this is done, even this part here to change, you'll only have here one bar in which you write, I want to take my PMP. That's it. That's what you say. And it will take you smoothly, automatically for weeks after weeks. And you only have to sit and watch because it's going to do an amazing work for you. So stay tuned. Pack a lot is coming soon on 9th of July with the will of God. So I'm really glad you liked what I have shown you, Gabriel, now, even though I haven't shown you yet the 95% of it.
ooh la la, Ahmed. I mean, do you have an opening for me as a trainer?
He told me on the chat yesterday, Ahmed, let's retake the PMP exam again. We're thirsty for it.
Yeah, exactly. No,
No, you're
this
gonna
is,
have.
I think overall, many people really stuck to have, let's say, a guide of what to do, when to do, and what stages you need to reach to make sure that you are getting closer. Because I think that the type of confidence people have or people need is just difficult to gain sometimes. But the tool looks amazing, and it's really going to help the students to achieve their goal.
Yeah. And
Pretty sure
definitely,
about
my
it.
friend, on 9th of July, you're going to have your. Just ping me on 9th of July, Gaber. Tell me, Ahmed, give me my rights. You have the right to have the access. You're going to have that access. Don't worry about it, man.
Well, I appreciate that.
No, you're my friend. Okay, guys. So we have just shown you examples of questions. And I promise you, everyone, once this is done on 9th of July and we officially release it, everyone in the world can have a free trial version of it. Okay? Don't worry about it, guys. So stay tuned. And Gabriel told me you really have to finish at 8 p.m. sharp, right?
A little bit, yes. Only today.
All right, guys. Yes, this is mobile friendly, by the way, Nassim. This is mobile friendly, the companion. It will work. Okay. What do you consider? There is a question here. I put on the screen, Gaber. Someone is asking, what do you consider to be the most significant change introduced in PMBOK 8 compared to previous editions, and how will they impact project managers in practice? I think we have answered this, Gaber. Do you want to take it, or should I take it?
So my take of it is going to
Yeah.
be that the split between the type of questions. So 40% going to be waterfall, where 60% will be agile and scrum and hybrid. I think that's a significant change, because even currently most people really sweat on those hybrid questions. They are challenging. They are hard to understand because either the way they ask is challenging or the answers they're providing is challenging. So yeah, that's my take of it.
Yeah. So let me answer this very important question. Let me take it this way. PMBOK 8 is more realistic, it has come closer to the realities we, the project managers, are facing in the different industries. It also has reshaped the project manager. More focus only on people. More focus only on processes. You no more say project management is people centered. No, it's people, process, and business. And when we say process, we also include technology in that, such as AI. But now, what PMBOK 8 is focusing even further on is, do you really, as a project manager, know what value is? How to define the value, how to create it and deliver it with your team, because this is something now PMI is emphasizing a lot on, which is you're no more. This is no more one person show. This is an entire team show. Okay, this is something new and very important in project management. And also, are you thinking of the future? Now, PMI doesn't want you to create a project, produce some deliverables just to make profit for the company now. What if we make a profit for the company now, but we will harm the company on the long run, or we will harm the environment? So sustainability, very important as well. And then the last thing, not last but not least, there is more, but I will just summarize the bit, which is, do you, project manager, understand that your project is not a standalone? It's actually part of a program, or it could be part of a program, it could be part of a portfolio, it's part of an entire system. And when we say it's part of the entire system, that means reporting should be synchronized, communication should be harmonized. You need to be in relationship with program manager, portfolio manager. You need to understand their weight and impact on you as stakeholders. You need to understand how this project is related to another project somewhere else in the company, which is probably part of a different program or different within the same portfolio or in another portfolio. So that broadening the perspective of the project manager, I love so much. And this is what PMI is slowly introducing in this new version. And there is more, but we'll stop here now. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a good question. That was a very good question.
Yeah. All right, let me check. I don't see any more questions. Guys, I wish I could stay longer. I'm fine with that. Gabriel has got to go. So, Gabi, anything you want to add to this short session?
No, I think it was great slides, Ahmed, and also the deep dive which you gave us on business environment. I think you did an extremely good job. We still have 5 more sessions to go, which makes me exciting. I hope the audience is also excited. Now they really marked this event to their calendar, looking forward. So yeah, more to come. July 9 is getting closer.
Exactly. One last thing, guys. You probably saw the passion of Gaber about project management, and you probably saw my passion. Let me tell you this. I'm going to say this, and I think, Gaber, I need your comment on this. One of the main reasons, guys, I have created the Project Companion is because I wanted to change the way the PMP trainers are preparing people for the PMP exam. Because 90%, I say it as an expert, 90% of the people holding the PMP certification were not always successful in their projects. Why? Because they learned for the exam, they did not learn for the project or for the project management. And this is a huge difference, guys. When you prepare for the exam, you just study for the exam, you learn the elimination techniques, the mindset, you go into the exam, you answer, you leave 3-4 days, you forget, you're happy with the certificate and you forget. And that's something I don't appreciate much. Now, we're doing something different. We're preparing people for success, not in the exam, for success and their career in managing the projects, in contributing to the company's success. Once they learn that from us in the right way, the PMP exam will be a piece of cake for them. Why? Because the PMP exam is based on real scenarios we have built. We, the project management experts, we have built those scenarios. And we have written those questions out of our experience and experience of others. Now, when I say we, I don't mean myself being part of that group who are writing the PMP exam questions. Of course not, I'm not, but I can put myself in part of those larger group, because I'm also writing questions for my students. So all of the questions you saw in the companion, they're written by my team and I, all right? So I don't know, Gabriel, what do you think about this?
No, I really see, this is also what you said is very much in line with the PMI values, that, we work together as a team. I mean, we're not, working in separation or isolation. And I think, you know, you are also on a mission to make sure people are better project managers, and that's obviously helping the overall profession to get PMs better. And I think, you know, and I think the reason why we also kind of click that well, because, you know, my mission is to helping people passing the exam. I mean, not just, you know, I wanted to, I don't know, sell 1,000 courses. I wanted to make sure people pass and not suffer, you know, and having the different point of view, and then hopefully, you know, they can implement it real life. But yeah, I mean, we all need to have a mission, and this is our way of adding the value. Let's put it this way.
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone. Gabriel and I will see you guys next week on another episode. Please, if you have watched this, make sure to like and share. That will encourage us, and make sure that this video will reach more people. Thank you so much, everyone. See you around.
Thank you all.